talking with our good friend Roger Wallace, and one of the things we said on the front end was, hey, Roger, we're going to talk obviously a lot of Texas. We talked Texas last week. You nailed it that they will be on the outside looking into the college football playoff. Then you said, I got some beef with your thoughts about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So that's exactly where we will begin, because that is a topic du jour so far of the day with Notre Dame. What did you make of the college football playoff committee, where they landed, especially where the Irish landed?
All right, first, full disclosure, I grew up in southwestern Ohio. A lot of good chance you're either an Ohio State fan or a Notre Dame fan.
Okay.
I was a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah.
All right, so got that out of the way. And I have no problem Notre Dame not being in the field.
Yeah.
What I have a problem is what I think everyone that does have a problem with it is, why do you drag Notre Dame along for however many selection show or ranking shows they had ahead of Miami, and all of a sudden after they won every game in between, you drop them below Miami and say, well, it was because we moved BYU, and once they were matched together, then we have to judge the head-to-head. And we talked about this in the break. They could have had a 2-minute conversation the first week and saying, people, we can't have Notre Dame ahead of Miami because Miami beat them head-to-head. Simple.
Yeah. Right.
What am I missing?
Yeah. Nothing. Sincerely, nothing. And I was upset with the process there as well. And it almost felt like they were like insulting our intelligence. Like, okay, hey, like we finally took into account the head-to-head once they got next to each other, side by side. You made a great point though about, and the reason why I think, and Patrick was talking about this as well, the reason why I think there's a lot more anger about this is because Notre Dame does look like a team that can win the national championship. They were obviously in it last year. It's a different quarterback, but same head coach and a really talented football team. And you mentioned something about their scheduling during the break that I thought was really interesting. A lot of people attack Notre Dame because they don't play in a conference. However, they do play a legitimate schedule with Power 4 squads.
All Power 4s except the Service Academy, and you can't argue that Navy isn't capable of giving anybody fits on any week. And again, there are a lot of programs that are down when these schedules were made. We're not. They play USC, Texas A&M, Miami, Pittsburgh. North Carolina State certainly had their share of success over the years. You can go on, but this year just happened to be a down schedule.
Right.
And so, then you start looking at the schedule, and I get the whole conference argument, but that's not going away.
Yeah.
They're going to stay independent, so they have the flexibility, and it's a safe bet that schools that would have that opportunity would probably do that if they could have their own network attached to that. And look at Texas with the Longhorn Network. They were fortunate enough to be in a conference and have their own network, but most schools just don't have that ability.
Yeah.
Roger, do you think that Notre Dame fans have more of a gripe missing out because of Miami or because of the Alabama result and the way that Alabama lost the SEC championship on Saturday?
Well, then you're talking about emotion, so take your pick because they're not in. But I would say more so the Alabama makes more sense, because how can you be upset if you're not in over a team that beat you head-to-head? I get it was week one, but we've been banging the drum that, all the games have to matter. Texas, while they went to Ohio State, they did lose to Ohio State. And don't tell me that the committee didn't look at that, it was the Florida loss. Well, the Ohio State loss made the Florida loss number 2, not loss number 1.
Right.
So they're human. And then the Alabama situation comes in, and they can hide behind the fact that they shouldn't be penalized to play in the SEC game, so they're going to be the first 3-loss team in. And, oh, by the way, they didn't move in the rankings. Texas last year moved from 3 to 4 after losing an overtime game to Georgia. You say, well, what's the big deal? Well, last year they had to play a first game because it wasn't just the first 4. Now, you can argue that didn't matter. Look at the championship matchup. Ohio State and Notre Dame both played, but they wouldn't have had to play Ohio State in the semifinals if they were the 3. So you can go on down the line and kind of make your own argument for your own case, and that's what kind of amuses me about some of the arguments. It's clearly what they think, so that's the thing. I think the argument you can't deny is, if Notre Dame's ahead in every ranking up until the final one and there's no change in any results, and then they jump Miami, then they were planning on doing it the whole time. That one I don't think Miami fans can deny. Notre Dame fans, can deny and Notre Dame haters can deny, which there are a lot of them. And that's why they're such a lightning rod.
Absolutely. Final thing here on Notre Dame before we jump over to Texas. There's a faction of people that are either Notre Dame or maybe Notre Dame adjacent that are saying that this result is to try for the establishment to force Notre Dame to go into a conference and play in a legitimate conference, whether it's the Big Ten or the ACC. How much of that do you buy into, or is that just kind of tinfoil hat conspiracy theory?
Yeah, because they're pretty adamant about that. You know, back in the old days, Notre Dame didn't play in bowl games because that was just the way they were, and they operate by a different set of standards, and that's why they have so many haters, and they're okay with that. I think they relish that, and they're getting that NBC money, so I think they're okay. But my argument would be, and I think Pete Bavacqua would say, first ACC fixture playoff tiebreaker.
Yes.
and then come on. So, I mean, you know, they boxed themselves in with that. Why wasn't Miami playing for an ACC championship instead of Duke? Oh, by the way, coached by Manny Diaz, whose dad is the former mayor of Miami, but we got sidetracked here.
Yeah.
No, I don't think this is going to hurt Notre Dame. You know, Notre Dame's got that clause next year. If they're in the top 12, they're automatically in.
Yeah.
So now do they bump them to 13 if they have two losses and no championship game? So I don't know. I mean, you know, if they go to 16, we're going to argue about something.
Yeah.
You know, Texas had their argument, and Sark was banging the drum hard early last week, and then, you know, by signing day, when Tuesday rolled around and they didn't move in the rankings, he was kind of resigned to the fact that they were on the outside looking in. They have 2 wins over playoff teams and 2 losses to playoff teams, so that's my math says 4 playoff teams they played. So, yeah, everybody's got their beef. I don't know what Vanderbilt's beef was ahead of Texas since they lost, but they seem to think because they were 10-2 that they deserve to be in over Texas. But, you know, everybody's got their reasoning.
Yeah, no question about it. You touched on Texas, and Texas will play what I think is an awesome logo game between Texas and Michigan, playing in the Citrus Bowl. Obviously, like, what do you make of that matchup as you look forward to it? 2 teams that you obviously at the beginning of the season, maybe a little shaky for both squads, found themselves a little bit. I think both teams are kind of in a similar position as they move forward into this game, and this game can kind of serve as a springboard moving forward with 2 quarterbacks that we are expected to be really 2 of the top ones next year.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to anger people, but I understand teams that opt out because of, for one reason or another. What is Texas going to do with Arch Manning in this game? And Sark was not asked about that as much as just the general idea of players opting out, declaring for the draft. We saw that today with Anthony Hill. But do they treat it like an NFL preseason game? Maybe play Arch for a half and then play either Matthew Caldwell and reward him for that throw against Mississippi State, basically, or the young guy, KJ Lacey, the true freshman. And what does Michigan do with their prize quarterback and their multi-million-dollar guy, Bryce Underwood, who, by the way, a mobile guy against a really good defense? Do you want to risk him getting dinged up in an injury in a bowl game? That could mean you lose the entire season.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I'm going to be interested to see. How do they handle playing this game now that it even more than ever? And we're in a different world here because for the last 2 years, Texas has played in the playoffs, so that hadn't been an issue. The first bowl game for Sark, they went down to San Antonio without Bijan Robinson, without Roshan Johnson, without DeMarvion Overshown, and, you know, they didn't fare very well. But how do you judge them on that? So I don't know how coaches handle these bowl games other than enjoy the fact that they get the practices and they get a trip and they get some gifts and things like that. But these kids are getting paid, so I don't know if a Best Buy gift card really means a whole lot now.
Roger, it's no secret that Texas would probably grade this season as a failure, coming in as the preseason #1 team and missing the college football playoff. But if you were to give this team a letter grade before this bowl game, what would you give it and why?
Yeah, I guess I would give it a C. You know, they still were there until the end in their eyes. They beat some good teams. They kept Texas A&M out of a chance to win their first conference title since 1998. You know, they developed Arch Manning. I think everyone would agree that Arch Manning now looks like the quarterback that everyone expected him to be in July. But, you know, they went to Florida and they lost. And they lost to a Florida team that wasn't very good, but oh, by the way, blew out a Florida State team that beat Alabama. But then I'm
Right.
getting sidetracked again. Sorry about that. Yeah, that was the killer, because that was number 3. You can live with an Ohio State loss wrapped around a Georgia loss, but you can't get that middle loss. So I would say it was average. They still have a chance to win 10 games, but in some respects, guys, they're not in the 12 team, and what are we playing for? Realistically anymore, but being in the 12 team or having I mean, look at Duke.
Yeah,
they had a celebration.
Yes.
I mean, they got a conference title. They're talk about on cloud 9 right now, sitting with 5 losses. But Texas got none of that. So I'd say it was an average season, below average when you talk about the fact that it's kind of now we've built the system for playoff or bust, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think people, thumb their nose at, if it's not about the playoff, we're just going to take our ball and go home. Well, we've created that.
Yes.
And the bowls for years, since the BCS, really, it's inventory for the 4-letter network. And yeah, I know. And the trips are different now. They're not going to go for a week.
Right.
Texas,
Yes.
I think, is going on the 26th, late on the 26th, games on the 31st. But again, it's just the system has changed. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
But, I remember going to a Cotton Bowl for like 8 days leading up to the Cotton Bowl. And they had all those events, and, it was all that. And then you look at like a Texas State here in Central Texas. They're going to Fort Worth for their reward.
Right.
Last 2 years, they went to Dallas for their reward.
Yeah.
Houston's staying in Houston.
Right.
The Alamo Bowl didn't want Houston because they don't travel well. That's about a 3-hour drive down I-10.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's a far cry
different
from
world.
Yeah, it's a far cry from teams you used to going to the Bahamas and Hawaii and
That's right.
like destination
Yeah.
spots, Vegas and
Steak
other.
eating contests
Right,
at the Cotton Bowl and all that stuff. I don't know if they're going to Disney World or not when they go to Orlando. I haven't seen the schedule yet, but they'll have a good time and they'll put their best face forward about it all. But it's an exhibition game to fill up the network.
Yep, absolutely. With every year, roster construction is like kind of one of the biggest things. Who do you expect, or maybe some of the prime candidates from this year's team that might not be Longhorns next season?
Well, the biggest name so far is C.J. Baxter.
Yeah.
He's announced that he's going into the portal, and this is a guy you feel for him because injuries really ravaged him. He had a really good freshman year, missed all his sophomore year, came back, and then got injured early in the UTEP game. You see Trey Owens, he was a highly touted quarterback, but I'm surprised he was still here this year the way the portal works, and he got moved down to the 4 on the depth chart with Matt Caldwell, the transfer, and then KJ Lacey, the true freshman. So you expect that. I'm not sure what KJ Lacey does because Diabell's coming in, one of the top quarterbacks in this class.
Yep.
So does he want to fight for the backup job, assuming Arch stays? And then from there, they had a defensive lineman, Melvin Hills III, who announced just recently that he's going into the portal. I would certainly expect some more, maybe in the backfield, maybe backup guys on both sides, and might be some surprises in the skill position as well. As agents are out there gauging what they can get. I don't think it's any more about being unhappy as it is, like a C.J. Baxter. You can understand that. He just needs a fresh start, some new scenery, and then, we'll see with some other guys. But they're going to lose, I would say, at least 5 to 8 guys that we would see play in that Citrus Bowl that probably won't be on the roster, especially when you count Anthony Hill, the linebacker who declared for the draft. And I would imagine we might see a little bit more of that. DJ Campbell, the offensive lineman. I'm not sure if it's in his best interest to play another football game. He's been known to get nicked up a little bit too.
Right, absolutely. Before we flip it over to Hoops, let's hear from Coach Steve Sarkisian, who has a pretty big month ahead.
Well, I think there's obviously a level of disappointment of not making the CFP. I thought that we put a body of work on the field. We stated our case. They made their decisions of who they felt was worthy and deserving of being the 12 teams to play in that tournament. And you have to respect that. This is an opportunity to play another game against a really good team in a great game, a great bowl game, and we're going to cherish it. We're going to put our best foot forward and try to go win this game.